that too. It appears we have a quorum, so I am going to call this meeting to order at approximately 4:30 in the PM. And the first item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. And it's recommended that the agenda for the Municipal Heritage Committee, October 8, 2024, be approved as circulated. Moved by Randy Jorgensen, seconded by Nealon. All in favor? Oh, we have to push buttons, don't we? Push buttons, how do we do that? Where's the button pusher?
Right in front of you, yep. Okay, that carries.
Approved. Thank you. Does anyone here have a disclosure of pecuniary interest? Anyone? Anyone? Going once? Going twice? No. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. It's recommended that the minutes of the Municipal Heritage Committee meeting September 10, 2024 be approved as circulated. Moved by Paul Cook, seconded by Lindsay Nealon. Find your buttons. Approved. Thank you very much. Now, the highlight of the meeting, we have a deputation, from Shauna Patterson, who apparently is the Director of Recreation, Arts, and Culture, and she's going to speak to us today regarding the Opera House sign and the update to the last time she was here deputizing us. Go ahead, Shauna.
Thank you. So I have been before you before. That's a lot of befores. The last time I spoke with this committee, the direction was leaning towards doing a digital sign and replacing the reader board of the current marquee with a digital board. There have been some changes since that time, and we are going with another reader board style marquee, keeping in line with what is there and keeping in line with the bylaw with the BIA downtown. There are some things that we cannot do within that bylaw, so we're just trying to make the sign safer for staff and keep within the bylaw and keep the heritage feel that we were going for before. So there is a image of the design. So we've been working with Duncan Ross, architect, to, yeah, please Kayla, thank you, to come up with the design. And we're gonna make it look like a mini opera house. Make it look like a mini opera house. So instead of it being internally illuminated, it is now gooseneck lighting. There is no digital, so it's still a reader board. The reader board is gonna be encased so that it is protected from elements. That was one of the concerns before with the old sign, because the weather and ice and freezing rain would freeze the letters individually to the sign, and it was challenging to change. So we made some modifications. We're just looking to see if this committee is still okay with the design and the color and the feel. And then it'll be going to committee this month for approval and an exclusion of the bylaw, because we are breaching the size of the sign bylaw. So we need to get an exemption to that to allow the size. It is the same footprint, similar to what is there currently, which is also not in compliance with the bylaw. So we're just looking to make sure we get that exemption so we could build the new piece. The tower does exceed a little more than the current sign, but within, you know, a couple of inches, it is very similar to what is there. So we're not changing the footprint, trying to keep the same kind of feel that's there. So open for any comments or questions, and if there's any.
Any comments? Any questions? Do we all approve?
Judy has a question.
Judy does?
I just wanted to comment and say that I particularly like it. I think it looks great. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just, is that replacing, like, isn't there like a flower bed around the current one, and will that be gone with the new one?
Through you. It will be.
Flower bed.
Yeah, the flower, it's more of like a rock bed. I don't think there's flowers there. So that will be removed. The sign is gonna be level to the ground, so staff don't have to step on top of that, rock bed, to change the sign. So it'll be flush to the ground.
You want to speak? There you go.
Okay. Anyone else? Paul, anything? No? Lindsay? No? Angela? Here, give everybody a chance to speak. You have a follow-up question, Judy? No? All right. Thank you, Shauna. Thank you very much. It would appear that you have our support. And you could mention that at your next deputation to whoever you're deputizing. Come back again.
On to the next item.
Pardon?
On to the next item.
Yes. Thank you. We're on to working group reports, item VI. First on the list is Built Heritage Awards Working Group. Do you have anything to say, Mr. Cook?
My group is, sorry,
There you go.
Go ahead.
my group is currently down to just me. And I'd like to, nobody likes working with me, I guess. I would like to, with the approval of the committee, to get Mark Claremont to do a little online article, maybe with pictures of the 3 properties that were passed on to me by Mary Story. Little blurb maybe about how nice it was that they rebuilt in an old style. I mean, they aren't totally, like one place put vinyl siding on, but it's in an old style.
Okay. First of all, I'll say that I think that one of the things that was a anchor in this year's, what do you call it? Something, our work group, our work plan. And our work plan was to do things that created more publicity for the committee, be they plaques or storyboards or walking tours or whatever, and I think that that would tie right in with it. And Kyla has something to say about our communications group here in the town.
Thank you. Through the chair to the committee, just give you some information about municipal media relations and communications. We have a communications coordinator whose position includes media relations, and generally we don't, as best practice, wouldn't reach out to one media source. Rather, build an internal media advisory, media release, and share with all our partners for them to take and run with, if you will. So Mr. Claremont's media relations program is welcome to publish a story, but we wouldn't reach out directly as like a one-on-one. Just as best practice, we would put something together and release to all in hopes of an expansive, comprehensive take-up on an item. So if the committee is looking to request staff build a media release, if you will, I can craft a motion to recommend such a sort of thing. And if approved, then our communications coordinator would build a program and share with all partners, including Mr. Claremont.
Paul, you probably do not have Mike's contact information. Mike is the communications director. Would you, in doing this, would you share that with
I
Paul?
have a motion, and if passed, it'll move its way.
Okay. Good idea.
That was just my question, Mr. Chair, who I would contact.
I think it's coming.
Just typing. What are the three properties that go?
Those were kind of passed along to me. Already, Mary Story's list from last year. We used to live there.
Okay, thanks for your patience. Multitasking here. I'm gonna just turn this drafted motion into be it resolved that the Municipal Heritage Committee recommended media and public relations campaign through the town's corporate communications division, identifying, we're very much identifying the town's previously awarded Built Heritage Awards. Let me fix those typos while you guys talk about that.
Is this, yeah, I'm not sure if it's regarding previous, no, yeah. It's, these are potential new,
We don't have any new ones right now, and the committee is down to Paul.
okay, well, I thought we were looking at 3 properties, so maybe, could we find out what they are there? What we're talking about, just refresh memory, because mine's very rusty.
Am I good?
Paul?
It was 771 Bay Street, 550 Wagner Street, and 325 McPherson Street West in West Gravenhurst, or McPherson Street, sorry, in West Gravenhurst. 771 Bay Street was a little renovation on their front porch that they redid in an old style. Wagner Street, I used to live there. They have kept it basically the same, but vinyl sided it. And the same with 325 McPherson Street. It's been kept basically the same, but with upgraded siding.
This sort of thing in the past, we've done this sort of celebration, if you will, on our own. We've had Mary Story and Carol Ann go out, they take pictures, there's a sign on the lawn, and it hits the newspaper, and I think it's good for us and good for the program. Oh, Jorgensen wants to talk.
Jorgensen was talking.
God.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So these properties, have we approached the individuals? Like, this is not, so just, I guess, refresh my memory on the process for Built Heritage. Don't we make some kind of recognition?
Yes.
So I'm just wondering if like a media thing might be premature. If the committee is going to recommend to us that we recognize those Built Heritage properties, is that not the process first? So I think Ange might have some input on that.
Thank you. Just in the past, what has happened is the working group has brought forward recommendations, and the reasons for the recommendation, typically photographs, and then gone out, as noted, and presented awards. It's a like a poster board that can be stuck in the lawn, in someone's lawn for a built heritage ward or put in their window. Doesn't mean that's how it has to be done now. I would note that the last time that the Built Heritage Awards were given out, that one of the recipients at the time worked here and was delighted and also, but also expressed that he wished they had have known that they were coming to take photos, and both he and his wife would have gotten dressed up, and they were quite, again, they were delighted to receive the award, but would have appreciated knowing about it in advance. So I would suggest that moving forward, that would be something that did happen, communication with the owner.
Thanks, Angela. Paul?
I do think, though, that speaking with both Mary and, not that I'm speaking for them, Mary and Carol Ann both felt that it wasn't, the recipients weren't really overly happy to get something. You know, they liked pictures maybe, but they weren't gonna ever display the little plaque or the stuck-in sign or,
Really?
yeah.
That did not show up in the pictures that we were presented with, you know, Mary and Carol Ann and the people all smiling and waving at the camera. But Mr. Jorgensen?
I'm wondering, is this not something we could do similar to what we do like with the Daisy Awards? You know, you just get a kind of a more generic kind of sign for a period of time that then is collected again and reused. You know, not a formal plaque or,
It never has been a formal plaque.
yeah,
It's
so.
been like one of
lawn
those, you know,
sign.
step-in lawn
Yeah,
sign
lawn sign.
things.
So I'm thinking we could do something, you know, generic that we buy them once and recognize them, and if they're amenable to putting it on the front lawn, do that for
Great.
a few weeks.
Yep.
And then do our
Pick it up,
media campaign
yep.
to talk about them, and then go collect them after a period of time. Because that's what we do at the Daisy Awards everywhere, like it's just a generic daisy,
Yep.
I think, that goes in.
It's been very, very similar to that
Yeah.
in the
So it's
past,
just,
so we
it's
can,
just,
yep,
we like what you're doing.
yep.
or
We like what you've done, yep.
We like what you've done, and would like to recognize that, and it's not a permanent thing.
No. Hasn't been in the
So I
past.
think that approach could probably work better than, and for the reasons I think that Ms. Jakatis has outlined, that you don't want to surprise people, so plan it out and do it on a kind of, not a real formal basis, but at least let them know that this is coming down the pipe, and then we can do a media
Yep.
campaign after that, I think.
Sure,
Does that make
Yep.
sense?
yep. But I think you'll find, talking to Mary, if she comes back from her safari, that that's what they've done in the past.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Okay. Because I just you just don't want to blindside people
No.
and do it haphazardly. I think we
Yep.
should just have a process. And that process should probably be documented and becomes the standard way that we do it.
Yep.
That's all.
Okay, Paul? Yep, thank you. Properties of interest. Glenn Silver is not here, but he furnished a report of some sort that Angela's going to, Judy's going to read to us.
Glenn sends his regrets at not being able to attend today, but did say that he wanted us to know that although we hadn't met, properties of interest had not met over the summer, he could see that Lindsay is working more closely with the signage group, work group. So he believes that we'll be able to come up with a package to offer property owners different ways of suggesting the historical significance of their properties by working together with the signage group. So I think that probably what will happen is, once he calls another meeting of our group, we will have Lindsay and I will be back, both from the signage committee, and we'll be able to talk as a group of perhaps 6.
Where'd my button go? Good alternative to things that we can't do under bill, whatever it is. Thank you. Is he back again? Goes away on a cruise and he can't shut up.
I got to catch up with all the, yeah, never mind. I'm just wondering if, Mr. Caddis, because you mentioned it, you know, as a result of Bill 23, what we can do, I think, has that not been extended now? The problem that we were having with designating properties,
Yes,
the time frame has been expanded, I think, so.
it has been expanded.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if Mr. Caddis could remind us of that, what's happened.
I'll let her speak. Why don't I push the button?
That is correct, that initially the province had passed legislation indicating that any properties that weren't, any listed properties on the register, they had to be designated by January 1st, 2025, which has come up quickly, or they would be removed from the register, and that date has been extended to January 1st, 2027, so an additional 2 years have been added.
Can it be on permanently? Like, Randy seems to be on permanently.
Just seems that.
Thank you, Angela. Richard? Do you have a report on interpretive signs and plaques working group? Richard?
He's presently on a steamship, so,
Yes, Judy.
yes. So I'm here from the signage working group to tell you that we have drafted a proposed purpose, procedures, and benefits of this group before we go ahead and start talking about what properties we might be going to, you know, suggest to the group to honor. So can we put up there it is. So you can see, when you look at the screen, the purpose is to increase the awareness of and interest in the rich heritage of Gravenhurst. Obviously, we're hoping that these historic sites and having plaques and storyboards and so on will help to enrich both the lives of the people who live here and the people who come to visit, and will make people more familiar with and perhaps more respectful of the various heritage sites that we hope to honor. Under the procedures, the signage group would then prepare a list, if in fact you agree with our purpose, would prepare a list of potential sites and bring them back to the committee and explain why we've picked those particular places, ask for input, and then if approved, we would then go ahead and start talking about what kinds of signs and so on. Now, we're talking about a fair bit of research. We'll have to go into all of this because we're talking about, you know, trying to find best possible recipients, shall we call them, or best possible places, sites, people to honor. But we're also then talking about finding appropriate pictures and so on to go on a storyboard or a plaque. And we're hoping that by doing this, we're going to make Gravenhurst a more historically interesting place. Maybe welcome a few extra visitors who do like to go about in a community and see the heritage of the community. Actually, acquaint local residents as well with our heritage, because I think an awful lot of local residents don't really know very much about much of the heritage of our community and the people who've lived here. So I think that we're hoping to up the ante on heritage. Any questions?
Any questions? Oh, Guess who?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing I'm just thinking is it might be, you know, I could see us having a very large list and not having the ability to do all of them at once.
Oh,
so
no.
Kind of prioritizing. And you know, in terms of, I like the idea, because your mission there stated properties and individuals. So
Exactly.
I'm thinking maybe we could look at doing, you know, have a couple properties and a couple individuals in a year. Because given our experience with the Archie Sloan plaque, we've got a sense of how long it takes to, you know, do the research, write it up, put it all together, get the sign made, get the location sorted out, that kind of thing. So I think some term, you know, some kind of priority, and maybe identify year 1, year 2, year 3 would be a good way.
And
And something else I thought of, I mean, we do have the registry already, I hope is a reasonable starting point for identifying, you know, for selecting properties, because they already have been selected, if you will. Yet they're not designated, of course.
Yeah, and I think also another factor to enter into which ones we do this year is whether it's a $3,000 storyboard or a $300 plaque. Some are going to attract plaques and some are going to attract storyboards. And some might be something in between. Judy Humphreys. How'd she get ahead of Randy?
We have been talking about the fact that there would be probably a fairly lengthy list. And indeed, I think as well, we would want to have the agreement, obviously, of the members of the committee before we went anywhere beyond just simply looking at and prioritizing perhaps the first 9 or 10
Yep.
either people or places that were going to be honored with such a thing. I think that we have to be very careful about how we go about doing all of these things, because we can only imagine that if someone happened to see this list publicly, of course, and they will, might feel slighted that in fact their ancestor had not been, you know, at the top of the list. So it's going to be a little bit of a dicey thing, I think, along the way. But I think if we're careful and we provide the criteria for what we're going to do, which is the next thing to do in our working group, is to decide on the criteria, how it is we're actually going to choose people, sites, whatever, historical events that should be honored and have a storyboard or a plaque devoted to them. So I think criteria will be really important, and we'll bring the criteria back to the committee to make sure that they agree with the criteria that we identify. But we did want to get our purpose, at least receive some sort of acquiescence from the group, and then from there we'll draft criteria.
Yeah, and as Randy has already alluded, a great place to start for
Exactly.
not people, but places
Yep.
is our registry.
Yes, and the people will actually fall out of those places because, you know, if you were talking Bethune House, Norman Bethune,
Yes.
Obviously an automatic association, so, yeah.
Terrific. No. No, I'm not pushing your button. Just stop it. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Richard. Angela?
Just one simple comment. Just initially, when this working group was established, it was named the Interpretive Signs and Plaques Working Group, and it seems to be being referred to as the Heritage Signage Working Group. So just for consistency, whatever is going to best reflect the
I'm live.
as we are in fact supposed to be.
I would recommend we just amend that in January when you adopt your new working plan.
Ah, yes,
I
yep,
don't think that changes the intent at this time, so you might as well just change it then.
yeah. So come January, we're going to be authoring a new work plan, at which point in time you can recommend the name change or not. Thank you, Kyla.
Thank you.
Speaking of January, and not on the agenda, but sometime between now and January, will the town be publishing somewhere, because there is no newspaper, a request for people to join subcommittees as a new year? Or is that on the,
Right now, we don't actually have any committees with any vacancies. All of our vacancies are filled, including this one.
It runs for the term.
Oh, if the question is about the term of council, this committee is appointed for the balance of the term of, which is until November 2026. So if you're thinking of leaving, that's too bad.
with whole new wards?
To be determined.
So really, no, is the answer. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You have a full committee right now, so.
Any other reports? Any unfinished business? Gosh, we are very effective to have no unfinished business. New business, the Muskoka District Cultural Heritage Conservation Orientation Session update from Staff Liaison.
Thank you. Just thought it would be beneficial to just provide committee with a brief update on the workshop that was held in Lake of Bays last week. Both Haley and myself had the opportunity to attend. The only person from the committee who attended was Carol Ann, and she did request that I convey to the committee her appreciation for being able to attend. Unfortunately, I know that most of you had other commitments, but it is unfortunate you weren't able to attend, as it was, I would suggest, a very informative session, provided a lot of valuable information. I do have some handouts that were provided, and am happy to make copies if anyone is interested. There was just some of the topics that were covered was the context and legislation under which municipal heritage committees operate. There was focus on designation and the criteria and research which must occur to be able to designate. There was also discussion about municipal heritage committees focusing on those legislative requirements. A couple of points that stood out to me. It was confirmed under the Heritage Act. I know we've discussed this before at this table about designations of federal and provincial properties. And basically, they can be those properties, so such as the post office, the fire college property, they can be included on a register, but passing a bylaw is ineffective because the municipality under the Ontario Heritage Act has cannot impose regulations on federally or provincially owned land. So just to be clear about that, but there's no problem with including those properties on the register. The other thing, or one other thing of interest, was that the ministry, in the past, some of you remember, they had detailed guidelines for designating properties, for lots of different things, and they're no longer providing guidelines or printed material. So it's whatever we can, so we did obtain some printed material. One of the items was an old guide titled Identify, Protect, Promote, and it was identified that it is out of date, but still relevant today. So any of this material is available for anybody who wishes to look at it. And I think that is what I had to convey. And happy to answer any questions as well.
I have a question. Going back to the post office, when some years ago, we put a plaque on the post office, had the post office people there was a ceremonial event, lots of speaking. Was that not registered? Or was it registered outside some loophole?
So the answer is that a bylaw was passed and it was put on the municipal register, but the bylaw really has no status under the Ontario Heritage Act. So as such, if the post office chose to demolish or alter the attributes that were
Yes.
included as part of the designation, the municipality has no power to prevent that through the Ontario Heritage Act.
And what about federally? I mean, federal people showed up for that ceremony. Is there any holding at the federal level? Or is that moot?
I would just suggest that they can do what they want to their building without any municipal
Yep.
approvals required through the Ontario Heritage Act.
But if they wanted to do something to the building, wouldn't they have to get approval from some federal source? Or is there no such thing as a federal source?
I believe you're correct, but I don't know that answer.
Yeah, okay. Surprise. Randy Jorgensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, it was really along my question was along the same lines that when we have designated, we have others as well. We have the Muskoka Center gazebo, I believe.
Yes,
Is a designated,
yes, it is.
I guess it would be a designated property
Yep.
as well. And there was another one as well. That's
The
federal.
Muskoka Center was provincial, not federal.
Yeah, but same thing. I guess we can't have a municipal bylaw that controls the provincial. Oh, the Narrows Lighthouse was the other item, which is another under federal jurisdiction.
Yes, and they showed up too. They went
So
on the- they went on the
obviously,
cruise with us.
I mean, my question was actually specifically for the Muskoka Center gazebo, which I think has been brought up as being in not great repair
That's
right now.
Yeah,
So we don't have the power to enforce it likely under the act, but how do we perhaps go about, again, asking, I guess, that,
or continuing some,
that,
or
you know,
continuing
that
some protection.
bring it to someone's attention that
Yep.
that particular item has been plaqued
Yep.
and should be
Protected.
protected and repaired.
Yep.
I don't know how we go about doing that, even though, I mean, obviously, the federal ones, both the lighthouse and the post office, they were happy to participate in the process.
Yes, they were.
So, I just don't recall what happened with when the Muskoka Center gazebo was designated. But I suspect they were a willing partner at the time, too.
Probably.
But I guess my question is, because this has been, I'm not sure if you brought it up, Judy, just asking for something to be done about that gazebo in particular.
Judy?
I'm kind of out of sync with what's being discussed because it's not about the gazebo. I'm back at the post office. There was a time when the plaque that was at the post office disappeared.
Yes.
Did it ever reappear?
No.
At the time, Colin Old, who was a member of the committee at that time, was trying to track them down, force them to.
He was chasing it.
Yeah, he was. He was on it, and I think he was well on it. And we were hoping that they would actually pay to have it replaced, since in fact, they'd lost it
Yep.
during, I think, some construction that went on there. Are we concerned that that plaque is still not on that building?
We should be.
I'm thinking we should be, only because it draws attention to the fact that we are doing those kinds of things and trying to address some of the heritage buildings, even though it's a federal building. It's not a designation situation, it's just a matter of trying to draw attention to the fact that we value that as a historic property and
And everybody that goes through the front door gets to see it.
gets to see it, exactly.
How much was a plaque? How much was the last time we bought a plaque?
It was less than $200. That was pre-COVID.
Which means it's now $725. And it's all Biden's fault, but. Oh, yeah. Randy?
Well, still, my question is, I guess both of these items now, how do we, does this become a staff thing, or do we draft a letter to someone, or, I mean, in the plaque, I think where perhaps you're going, Mr. Chair, is let's just replace it.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I would support
Colin
that
has
at
done
this
a lot of
point.
work chasing it,
Yeah,
and he's
and
getting
maybe we
nowhere
can,
because
maybe
of
we
the-
can just contact Colin and see where he ended up, but chances are it's gone, so.
Oh, it's gone.
Yeah, so, you know, do we want to, how do we want to move forward on that? But
Yeah.
also, that, you know, I think we do need to follow up on the Muskoka Center gazebo and just at least tell people that we're concerned about it,
Yep.
whoever they may be.
Whoever they may be. And is there a plaque attached to the gazebo?
I've never actually noticed a plaque on it, but I think it was Mary, maybe it was Mary that brought it to our attention, right, wasn't it?
It was what?
It was Mary that brought it to our attention, because she said she's been boating by and the
Yes.
windows were
Yep.
broken and things like that. And it probably needs some paint. But I can't picture a plaque on it, but there probably is one. But
Getting back to the post office.
both those items, how,
It's-
I guess what's
it's
the
lost in
recommendation?
It's lost in the federal bureaucracy somewhere, and nobody's gonna take ownership for
Yeah.
it going astray. We buy another plaque. Pardon? Yes, he's right here. I'll push this button in a minute. Oh, God, Randy's back again.
No, I turned mine on.
Paul?
Yes, through you. From my notes from our last meeting, Councillor Jorgensen said he was going to contact Infrastructure Ontario about the, about the gazebo.
That's a good, see, I guess I should read the minutes.
Yes.
Was that in the minutes?
Yes, it is now.
So if we want to proceed with that, sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I'll follow up with that then, in terms of the Muskoka Center property.
Thank you.
It still leaves the question of what we do about the post office, I guess. And Ms. Chikatis might have an idea on how we can proceed with that.
I would just confirm that based on the register, the Muskoka Center gazebo was not plaqued. Was not plaqued. It is designated. It was, the property was designated in 1989. And again, that, although it's designated and a bylaw was passed under the Ontario Heritage Act and it's in the town's register, the town has no authority to direct the province. So as per Member Cook's recollection, I think Councillor Jorgensen had agreed to contact the Ministry of Infrastructure, and I think I can provide you with the contacts that I have, whether they're the correct contacts, but we can work together on that. With respect to the post office, I think that just in speaking with the Director of Legislative Services, perhaps she can outline a recommendation.
Thank you. Through the
Thank you.
chair to the committee, I'd recommend, based on this discussion, the members connect with previous member, just to get that information and research, and connect with the community coordinator prior to next meeting, and we'll put that agenda item on with a proposed motion. If what I'm predicting to be true, the plaque has not been located, some recommendation to move forward with a new plaque. But I would hate to put forward or recommend put forward a motion to purchase new plaque to find out that it actually has been found. So if we could wait that month and you take some time to do that research, then we'll have it prepared for you for the next meeting on the agenda.
All right, good, thank you. Well, green light. Yes, Judy?
I do speak with Colin periodically, so I can call him and ask him where it all, ended up. And I suspect it ended up nowhere, and that in fact there is no plaque, and they have no intention of replacing it at the post office level. So I can bring that back to the next meeting, and we can go from there.
Well, thank you. It is appropriate to confirm it. So let's take that step. Thank you, Judy. Anyone else? The next item on the agenda is adjournment, because I will note there is no correspondence. So adjournment would be the next one. Our next meeting date is Tuesday, November the 12th at 4:30 p.m. here in these very council chambers. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Judy Humphreys, seconded by Paul Cook. All in favor? I have to look at these.